Hi everybody, Happy New Year and Happy New Balanced Data Slate and Chapter Approved 2023. We've got a raft of new rule changes inbound that will shake up the competitive 40k scene. Us Astra Militarum commanders have only just had our new codex released, and then the wider rule set is all changing around us. Personally, I enjoy this type of change, as it shakes up the type of opponent you go into, and of course introducing new secondary objectives introduces new challenges to adapt to. So in this video, I'll review the changes in the balanced data set that impact guard, and also any other rule changes that have been announced by GW, and some stuff that's been leaked. Okay, so starting with the balanced data slate, put simply, everything that was there for guard is now gone. All that was included in the Q4 2022 document has been removed. So starting with Armor of Contempt, this rule in its entirety has disappeared, with absolutely no armies having this anymore, including Astra Militarum vehicles. Losing this for guard was kind of expected, and given we've had point drops on the key vehicle unit, the Lim and Russ, to have kept it would have been probably too much in the context of also modernised rules for Lim and Russ battle tanks. However, it is particularly surprising that the rule in its entirety has been removed from the balanced data slate. But from what I understand, Space Marines have had some pretty big point drops, so explaining why this rule is not needed anymore. It does make me wonder about Sisters of Battle and how they fared from the point changes. Does anybody know? So this puts Astra Militarum vehicles as survivable as any other powered armoured unit, and will bring back life to any of our AP weapons like heavy bolters and heavy flamers that were previously a bit weak. On a 2+ save on a Lim and Russ and Rogal Dawn tanks, it also makes their 2+ save even more powerful, given not a lot of other vehicles carry a 2+ armor save. Also, this opens up potential merit to the regimental doctrine industrial efficiency, giving an army-wide baby Armor of Contempt, making all AP1 weapons to AP0, so keeping our guardsmen on a 5+ save against small arms fire. Also, armoured tracks on any vehicles will be a good upgrade, giving another baby Armor of Contempt option if you don't want to take industrial efficiency. So Armor of Contempt going, I think this will be a good thing for us guard players, with the order of Take Aim and Fixed Bayonets and their extra AP really make a difference into Space Marines, whom I'm assuming are going to see a lot more play in 2023. Right next is the indirect fire nerf, with guard now been included. I was personally expecting this as well, to be honest. And I know it sucks and pretty much shells my 2 Manticores, 2 Basilisks, Armageddon, Pattern Medusa, and my Mortar Squad. But the possibility of Blitzer Skill 3+ Guard Artillery shouldn't be a thing that could be done through expert bombardiers. I know the doctrine is actually pretty weak in the scheme of things, requiring a Sentinel or Voxcaster squad to be within 12 inches, but the possibility is certainly there. We'll come on to it a bit later, but also reinforcements now cost you no command points. So you could stick a ton of infantry squads into reinforcements and feed them out, potentially with line of sight, onto enemy units hiding behind cover, and hence giving you a 3+ to hit from artillery. Overall, however, this is pretty dire for any guard artillery, with maybe only mortars and the new bombast field gun having a chance, given they can receive the regimental order, Take Aim, so putting them back on a Blizzard skill of 4+. So overall, this is pretty bad for any artillery, including my 6 models, which are now going to be sitting in my cupboard until 10th edition is released. Okay, now onto the remaining items that were removed from the balanced data slate. Firstly, the stuff that has stayed in the new codex is obviously the powerful Hammer of the Emperor, aka Born Soldiers, with it, which despite me not wanting to admit it, is probably the go-to doctrine for guard. The 2+ armor save is also in the new codex for Lim and Russ battle tanks, and also the Baneblade, which we know has done absolute wonders for us. Now, what I didn't realize that one of you called out is what this does to our Forge World super heavy vehicles. So for example, the Macaris and my Kit Bash Stormblade are now on a hideous 3+ armor save. However, I would honestly wait until the Forge World models have the new rules released. They all need to have their keywords updated to make them work in the order structure, and likewise any character buffs that are now available. However, until it's released, it's pretty dire for any of these Forge World units, sitting in a weird spot, so hang in there. Finally, the splashing of orders is obviously also coded into our new codex, so maintaining a lot of tactical flexibility for us. So overall, the balanced data slate, in my opinion, wasn't anything unexpected for Guard commanders. Armour of Contempt leaving was to be expected, and as was the indirect fire nerf, which whilst it is tough, I was expecting it. As to the other armies, I'm pretty limited in my knowledge, but I know Adeptus Custodes have been somewhat improved, with some key stratagems being able to be used multiple times in a game as opposed to only once. And Harlequins have been nerfed with an army-wide invul save reduction by 1, putting them on a 5+ invul save. They can also no longer advance and shoot their fusion pistols out of their transports, and I think both of these changes were warranted. Being a part-time Custodes player, they certainly had lost some of their shine, and having been slapped around enough times by Harlequins, they were ready for a nerf as they were oppressively good. And also a quick one on Space Marines to mention is a buff to their troop units. Now being objective sticky, being able to secure an objective and still hold it after that unit has moved off it. This can be very helpful for limited unit army count armies, freeing up units to go about other business. I get the feeling Space Marines overall are going to have a good year this year. Okay, next is the points update with, as mentioned, some big changes for Space Marine units. And the good news for Guard commanders is that there's been no change at all, which means GW got the codex right when they wrote it, as opposed to the poor old Space Dwarfs who had their points dropped even before they were released. One tiny point for us is that the Leman Russ tank still has its dozer blades as a 0-point upgrade. So if you can be bothered, go nuts with sticking heaps of dozer blades onto your Leman Russes. Okay, now onto some stuff that has been partially announced. Firstly, secondary objectives. There was a battle report on Warhammer TV between Astra Militarum and Necrons. They showed the new inflexible command secondary objective, which has been tweaked for the new keywords and also boosted to be easier to achieve. We score 2 victory points if all platoon infantry are within 6 inches of a friendly officer. So making it easier as it excludes units like Bulgrams, non-officer characters like Astropaths, and also at a minor point, the Field Ordnance Battery, given it has a platoon but not the infantry keyword. The vehicle aspect still rewards 1 victory point if all squadron units are within 12 inches of a friendly officer. Previously this was vehicle officers, so again making it easier to achieve. And the kill aspect of the secondary has been mega boosted to scoring 2 victory points if any unit receives an order and destroys a unit. This means if Bulgrams receive a Perfectus order, or a Baneblade gets an order from Lord Solar, then it also scores victory points. So scoring 15 victory points from this will be a cakewalk, and you can really go for it, scoring 15 in the first 3 turns, playing a cagey game, and then in turns 4 and 5 try to max out any movement based secondaries. The assassination secondary is also shown with the victory points rewarded staying the same, but interestingly now rewards 1 command point if a troop unit, aka infantry squads, kills the character. This is also mirrored in the new Grind Them Down and is a cool way to bring back more CP into the game. However, for this army, it's probably less relatable given we've got weaker troop units, and probably more of a possibility for those with higher elite troop units like Custodes. However, given Grind Them Down is in the same family of secondary objectives as Inflexible Command, you'll probably rarely ever see a Guard player use it. Okay, lastly is a new detachment that is available, being called Arks of Omen detachment. The headline summary of this is that you can basically take whatever you want now. As long as you take a headquarter unit and then choose to take 3 of any of the required unit types, you can then choose whatever else you like. This is great and obviously allows complete flexibility in any army with this composition, and I reckon we may see some pretty crazy bonkers wild enemy lists out there at tournaments. And for Guard, it does allow for a bit more tasty vehicle heavy lists, or 120 infantry if that tickles your fancy. I would however say that it doesn't really give us anything else new that we couldn't already get in a brigade, but it does remove the requirement to fill out an elite or faster attack unit slot, something not everybody uses all the time. Something that was shared with me by one of my patrons is info from the new Arks of Omen rulebook itself. explaining the requirements for army list building. You'll be required to always take the Arks of Omen detachment, and you can also take a single additional patrol or super heavy detachment that costs you no command points. So you could take a sign patrol with the sign squads consequently being troops and gaining OPSEC given they're in their own detachment. It should be said, however, that aside from troop units, the rule of 3 still applies. So you still need to take 3 squadrons of 3 Leman Russ, for example, if you want to max out all your tanks. However, given Leman Rusts are basically no longer for sale on the GW website, you could be waiting a while before you start painting up more armoured units. Right, so a shorter video this week as I'm off to a tournament tomorrow, and wish me luck, and I'll be taking the army doctrines of Swift as the Wind and Armoured Superiority. Let's see how we go. So what do you think of all these changes, and what have I missed? Let me know in the comments. And as always, if you want to support me, you can do so with a like, comment, or by subscribing, leaving a comment, or sharing this video. So keep your bayonet sharp, las gun oiled. Faith in the Emperor strong, Patron platoon, sound off.
Tank Commander Glenn, Tank Commander Mitchell, Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten, Colour Sergeant DuPont, Sergeant Broxius, Adal, the Colonel Merrill, Veterans Gibson, Hall, Lundeen, Guardsman Beard, Coquelin, Flint, Hills, Malik, Nitton, Nguyen, Smith, Tom, Tompkin, Conscript Bosson, England, Gilliam, Goodwin.